Hi guys, welcome to our Facebook page. I've grabbed our reporter, A McGee. He's on his coffee break, but he's kindly going to join us
Come on, have a sip now.
on Facebook. Go for it, Aidan. He's going to join us because we're going to have a look at the top 5 transfers that could happen today. Obviously, it's the day before deadline day, but as we mentioned earlier, it is an important day for some Premier League clubs because they've got a midday deadline to get some of those deals done before tomorrow's fixtures.
I've never known a situation like this where we've got so many games sort of hampering transfer deadline. So that will actually affect some of the business. I think some managers have said as much anyway. But as far as Dimitri Payet, you mentioned just a short time ago, finally got him off the front screen. That's done. Obviously, that could have. I think you were going to say this anyway. I think I've stolen your thunder, but I think it could have effects for this man. I've been talking to people close to the player, and they say they've been waiting now for probably about 10 days to get this one over the line. They've been waiting because they've been waiting for West Ham to sell Payet. Now West Ham are cash rich. They've got money up front. It seems like a lot of money, but the deal's front-loaded, so it's £9 million up front. The rest of it will be subject to him fulfilling certain criteria and meeting certain clauses in the deal, and that's so that it could potentially see a situation where West Ham don't pay the full amount for another year or two. So I expect that one to go through today. 14 goals in the Championship this season. There's a real premium on English strikers as well. And why not? I mean, there's so many have come up from the Championship in recent years and done well. Why can't he be the next one?
And Payet, obviously, it was a record transfer deal for West Ham, £25 million that they can expect from that deal. And he was their top scorer last season, so they are going to need goals in this transfer window at some point, aren't they?
Oh, without question, yeah. I mean, look, they've picked up in form, but I was at West Ham yesterday. I went over to the London Stadium, to the club shop, interviewed a few punters, and they were saying to me, look, the team have picked up. There is a problem with unity in the squad with Payet around. He was great last season. Sadly for him, his legacy finishes with him being remembered as a one-season wonder, which is a real shame because he was so good in that last season at Upton Park, and I think that there's a feeling at West Ham that they can move on without him. We saw the statement last night, of course, from David Gold and David Sullivan.
And that Snodgrass deal went through before. Do you think, with them knowing that Payet wanted to leave, that Snodgrass deal was put in place as a replacement for Payet?
Well, I think it was, because if you look at it, there was huge interest in Snodgrass, and why not? 7 goals this season. I mean, tremendous character as well. I think that really resonated around the Premier League, the way he jumped back out of I think it was a cruciate knee ligament injury, wasn't it, which took a little chunk out of his career, and he's come back looking even stronger. That doesn't happen very often. But if you look at it, Burnley were interested, Middlesbrough were interested, they both made bids of the same amount as West Ham. They couldn't get the player because it was clear that he wanted to go to West Ham.
Okay. Hull's top scorer as well this season so far, so that should be interesting.
He's good on a free kick, isn't he? He offers that precision from dead balls.
Okay, let's move on to a possible Chelsea transfer today then.
Can I press it?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Well, look, we knew of the interest last week. I mean, this is a player who, I remember reading in Roy Keane's book several years ago that they used to clap him coming off training because he used to kick the ball out of the net, and it was astounding. Now, who earns applause from Roy Keane? It's a difficult thing to do. So clearly a very talented guy. He's done well to rebuild his career. Another one like Snodgrass, even worse for him. He was out for even longer. He's at Celtic. He's rebuilt his career, and suddenly he's attracting the interest of Chelsea. Now, he'd be doing well to push Courtois, but their situation is that they can get Craig Gordon for £4 million. I believe they made an offer yesterday before the 4-0 win over Hearts. That could go through in the next couple of days. Celtic, though, say he's under contract for another 18 months, so they're going to fight hard to keep him. That could have ramifications for Chelsea because from their point of view, and clubs are businesses, don't forget, they could sell Asmir Begovic tomorrow for £10 million, and I think he's older than Craig Gordon as well, so it represents good business. You get a £6 million surplus on that. So yeah, one that very much could happen today, and again, just like Hogan, could have ramifications for other deals elsewhere.
Yeah, I think it's worth us actually talking about Begovic first, because this deal could kick on that deal, because Begovic obviously is linked with Bournemouth. Yeah. So might that happen today, do you think, Aidan?
Possibly. I mean, we're going to get... I just had Gail Davis on the phone, one of our reporters. She's down at Bournemouth now. She's going to see them see Eddie Howe at 9 o'clock. So we're going to get the inside track from him, we hope. He's clearly somebody they're after. I think they see Boric as... I think liability is probably too strong a word, but he's certainly erratic. He can be brilliant one game and he can make mistakes in others. So I mean, he's done well, but I think if they're going to make that step up, they probably need a goalkeeper who's going to just keep the door shut for the next 2 or 3 years. Okay, before we move on to our next deal that we're going to talk about, if you've got any questions for Aidan McGee, he's going to stick around while we get through these players. So please do send them in to us. Brogan's behind the camera. She'll read them out at the end. So any questions for Aidan, please send them in. Coffee's cold, so you don't have long left. Put it down.
Of course, yeah, go for it. Right, so from a Chelsea ingoing to a Chelsea outgoing, we'll talk about Branislav Ivanovic.
This was interesting. I mean, this guy's career has fallen off a cliff over the last 18 months or so. But there are still Premier League managers outside of that top 6, top 8 bracket who still feel that with his experience, he can do a job. We know that Tony Pulis was at Stamford Bridge on Saturday. There's no imminent prospects of West Brom playing Chelsea. He could only have been there for one thing. Branislav Ivanovic came on as a substitute. Now, he's in talks, we understand, with Zenit in Russia. So West Brom have to act quickly if they want him. So they're going to have to move on that today or tomorrow. I think personally, as a centre-back, even full-back cover, for the moment, he'd be pretty good. I think Pulis would see him even further than that. Once he regains a bit of match fitness, I think he could go straight into the side and maybe, again, form a mainstay of their defence for the next couple of years. I mean, don't forget Gareth McCauley, Jonas Olsen, they're knocking on a bit, aren't they?
Of course, they'll have to act even more quickly if they want to get that deal through for tomorrow's game. They'll have until midday.
Yeah.
Ivanovic has been a very important player for Chelsea for many, many years now.
Yeah.
Do you think Conte just maybe doesn't fancy him? He doesn't work in this 3-5-2 system that he's trying to use?
I think there's an element of that. I also think that some players have peaked. I mean, we remember 2009 semi-final in the Champions League against Liverpool, and I think he scored 2 headers at Anfield, and that was announced his arrival at Chelsea, and then he'd already been in the system for a couple of years. But he never looked back. He was never out of the team from then. He was one of the most consistent players for ages and ages. And then, of course, they win the league title in 2015. Mourinho starts the season the following year. He's one of a number of players performing below par, but he never really, unlike Fabregas and a couple of others and Costa, and Hazard, he never really recovered his form. And that's why he's probably leaving Chelsea.
OK, we've got an interesting update on Manchester United's Ashley Young as well, I believe, Aidan. Yep, go for it.
Good. Yeah, I mean, he was... Mourinho spoke about him yesterday. We understand there's interest from China. Now, he's been there since 2011, so 5.5 years at Manchester United. I think Mourinho said yesterday after the game against Wigan, 4-0 win, he said he's a player that I really would like to keep, but it might be out of my hands because, I mean, if there is interest from China, we know about the kind of eye-watering sums of money that are being offered there, so he could be tempted at his age. If we're talking Premier League, I could see him going back to Watford. There is Premier League interest as well. But either way, I mean, we were told yesterday by somebody close to him that he may have played his last game for the club.
OK, so Watford fans, that's something to listen out for as well. Possible return for Ashley Young.
They need players, Watford, don't they? So
they do, and we've seen one winger already leave this transfer window for Manchester United, Memphis Depay. They've installed kind of buyback fees as well. They want a chance to re-sign him possibly in the future. It's not going to be the case with Ashley Young, but do you think, given the business they did, so much in summer, they're not going to maybe move much this year?
No, I don't think they'll move. Well, they haven't moved much in January. I don't think we're going to see anything earth-shattering in the next 48 hours. In the summer, listen, I think if they haven't won the league and they haven't re-qualified for the qualified for the Champions League, so obviously not in it this year, then I think they'll spend big again because they're going to need to bridge that gap. As far as buybacks, I think United have finally learned their lesson after Pogba. I think they'd have liked to have a buyback in someone like Gerard Piqué's contract to buy him back, but even Sean Goss, who they let join QPR at the weekend, they've got a buyback in his contract. They've got a buyback in Depay as well. They do not want that to happen again. Chelsea, we were talking about, had to pay over the odds. Well, not over the odds, but they paid a lot more for Matic to bring him back than they did when they sold him a couple of years before. So they want that little bit of security on those deals now, and I'm not surprised.
Yeah, lesson learnt from the most expensive footballer in the world, Paul Pogba, I think. OK, last one. We just mentioned Watford, actually, so we'll go for an outgoing for them. Odion Ighalo. What's the latest? It's another interest from China, isn't it?
Yeah, there is. I mean, apparently there was an offer of £38 million last summer. And I mean, this is a guy who hasn't scored consistently for over a year now. He had his purple patch in the Premier League for the first 4 or 5 months. It didn't really pick up from him from there. So I think he's a player they would look to move on. Having said that, even over a relatively short period of time, he is proven in the Premier League. Now, there's been interest from West Brom, we know that, but that was dependent on other things happening with West Brom. I think it involved Berahino as well. But I could see him going to China, yeah, and if we're talking about, I mean, anything close to between 20 and 30 million pounds for him, you'd have to say it was good business, wouldn't you?
OK, so 5 deals that could go through today. We've recapped those. Yeah. Thank you for that, Aidan. Brogan, any questions come in for Aidan during that time?
Lots of people asking about Liverpool.
Liverpool, nothing done yet, Aidan, and they've had a disastrous January or 2017 to date. So could they make any late moves, do you think?
I really don't think so. I can't see anything happening in the next couple of days. I mean, Sam Allardyce gave an interview a couple of weeks ago where he said he felt that most of the business would be done in the Premier League in the bottom half, and that's very much been borne out so far, and certainly in terms of recruitment. I mean, Palace themselves have been interested in a number of players, but I've not seen Liverpool linked strongly with anybody. We've not had any information. We've been told to expect very, very little. I think Klopp said there might be something very, very minor. We await details on that, but at the moment, nothing.
OK, possibly something to hold on for Liverpool fans.
You just never know, that's the thing.
As well, Sadio Mane coming back from the African Cup of Nations, that's going to be a big boost for them.
Well, a new signing, isn't it, almost?
Exactly. So, Brogan, anything else for Aidan?
Bill Jackson, any news about the champions, Leicester?
Let me see. Well, Slimani, possibly. Should we get a picture? Let's go to the champions, shall we? I've been really disappointed with Leicester. I mean, one player different from last season. They really haven't kicked on at all, or even tried to hold on to a top 10 place. So I think they might accept that even though Slimani is a player with obvious quality, if they get a big offer for him, and I think there's just interest at the moment. I'm not sure that. Well, actually, no. We're saying there is a bid, so yeah, clearly there is. £38 million. They're determined to hang on to him, but it may be borne out that he could go.
Okay.
I could see that. I mean, it just hasn't really happened for him. You could, as I say, you can see he's a decent player, but it hasn't happened so far, and I think they may cut their losses if they think they can get someone in better.
Lovely. Okay, one more question then I think, Brogan, for Aidan.
You're asking about Newcastle.
Newcastle, okay, Championship side, Newcastle. They're going well this season. Maybe don't really need to invest too much, but they might be planning for the Premier League already. What do you think?
They probably are. I mean, they've got QPR on Wednesday at home. You think they'd be comfortable winning that one, having won 6-0 at Loftus Road. But we understand they're trying to bring in Andros Townsend. They're trying to bring him back. I don't think he's going to feature much for Crystal Palace. They're well stocked in that area of the field as well. Palace, Sam Allardyce. I could see him going back to Newcastle. I believe they're pushing hard, yeah. We were told, like Keith Downey rang me last night, our reporter in the North East, and said that they're trying hard to get that one done. Okay, so still plenty of deals yet to happen. We've got one day, 14 hours left. Thank you very much for joining us, Aidan. Thank you for the questions also on Facebook. We'll be live on Facebook this morning, on Periscope on Twitter, our Instagram and Snapchat stories, and of course on channel 406 Sky Sports News HQ.